So the goal for today is to just finish off what we did yesterday. So I said as much as I want to say about kind of general theory of how things are done. You've been given an example, but let's just make sure that we can reproduce at least some elements of that example, because that's what you're going to have to do for the lab due next Friday. And then again, tomorrow the plan is I'll by tomorrow I should also have the lab instructions ready, so we'll talk over that. I will speak with any of you I need to if anything concerns me in the our project prospectuses. We'll talk over what's going to happen in a couple weeks when I'm not here, and then do any early grading, and then finish that off on Friday, and then we should be good. At least I should be good for a couple weeks, and you'll know what you need to do for a couple weeks. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to start with a fresh project. So that's what this is, just a blank project. So nothing up my sleeves. Let's reproduce some of that infrastructure with UI. And in fact, what I'd like to do is maybe do what I perceive as like the Unity approved way of doing the UIs. I'm not as nice as some aspects like the terrain and how they integrate the physics, and as nice as they make some things, this is where the whole scheme of avoiding programming at all costs, I think, breaks down a little bit. But nonetheless, so what I gave you in my example was kind of a hybrid thing. I kind of used the Unity hooks and the buttonology and the inspector to do half of it, and then the other part was done in scripts. In point of fact, to do a tutorial in practice will always take a hybrid approach, because the GUI can do its thing. Once the user gets it, yeah, I understand, he's going to have to then jump into your game, your training example, your experiment, whatever you're putting in front of them, and then within the code of your actual simulation, you need to be detecting that he's doing the right thing, he's not doing the right thing, and that is what will trigger the next round of information display that happens to your user. Right? So it's always going to be hybrid at the end of the day, but we'll try to use the Unity stuff to the max here, just to do things a little differently, and also, your feelings about it may be different than mine. I assume at least some people like it. So let's do it. So we're going to start up our game. We're going to have a screen confront the user. Let's create that screen. Okay, how do we do that? Game object, UI, obviously it's going to be a canvas. Okay, so there's our canvas. We look at it in a 2D view here. Double click on it to frame it. We can put a title on it. Again, so I'm just using kind of the if you just do the normal thing with a canvas, unless you take an extra action yourself, it's going to be transparent. Probably at a minimum, what you'd like to then maybe do is orient the canvas so that it actually looks at an interesting part of your environment rather than just off into the sky. Or alternatively, maybe lay an image element down, right? We could easily go in here and say UI, image, raw image. I don't know what's smarter. I'd probably start with image. Import an image in and use that. What would that image actually be? Well, maybe a screenshot. Maybe you put something you produce in an art tool. Your choice. That would be the other obvious alternative. Okay, so for right now, I'm just going to go with a plain old title. So there it is. There's some text. Title of my sim, there it is, except it's not very nice. Okay, so I think you guys probably know more than I do about the buttonology of this, but you might maybe want to change the font size. Maybe you want to change how the characters are getting laid out there, like maybe center them rather than having them be left justified. The title might also, it's a sloppy job, but you get the idea. Whoa, hey, no, I don't want it. Make it all bendy. You might want to shift it up a bit. You can just do that by playing with the Y position here, or the normal thing, the normal buttons work. If I go into the Move tool and say, give me a Move widget, I can pull it up. Okay, next I'm going to need a Start Game button, possibly. Again, more typically, this would be in a real game, you wouldn't just have a start option. There would be some other options that are involved, like maybe setting your options, or not just a simple start, but are you starting as in a standalone mode, or are you starting in a network mode? So I should go out and look for other simulations, right? So you'd have either more buttons or something that looks more like a menu that the user clicks on. But for right now, I'll stay with the simplest thing. I'm just trying to basically recreate via different means the stuff that I showed you before, so I'll stick with a button. Okay, here's a button. Okay, again, maybe we want to shift it down. Maybe we want to make it somewhat bigger. Maybe you want some different words on there. Again, what happens with the button is that some additional stuff gets created along with it. You'll notice two things, actually. The text there that I'm going to use to label my button, and also the event system that's going to, behind the scenes, without our explicitly touching it, propagate events around between the button and other game objects and or functions in our code. Okay? All right, so let's go here to the text. Put something intelligent on here like start. Make it bigger. That's too big. All right, there we go. Again, if this were more professional, you probably wouldn't be satisfied just with some words. Maybe you might want an image on there or something like that, but that's on you. That's how fancy you want to be. Okay, now we already have something that will work, kind of, sort of. It doesn't do anything now. I mean, it starts up, the button's there. You can go in and click the button to your heart's content. It doesn't do anything. So let's kind of work forward from there. I mean, what's the first thing we'd like to have? Well, when we click the start button, at a minimum, maybe the splash screen should go away. All right? Probably some other things should happen too, but we can start with that. Okay? So how do we make that actually happen? Well, first let me rename my canvas as Splash. Call it the Splash canvas. Okay, good. So I want to make it go away. How can you do that? Well, again, you go to the button, you go down to the bottom. These are all the things that are supposed to happen when this button is pressed, and as you can see, what happens now is list is empty, nothing. So we're going to add something in. Here's our first event. Again, this thing is driven, what your options are is driven by some object that you want to operate on in the environment. Once you drag an object into the slot, it will get smart and populate that button with some decent options as far as it knows. Okay, so I want to disactivate the canvas, so I'm going to go and drag the canvas down there, and yeah, this is already ugly. Look at how it constantly scrolls up. Well, you know what? I could collapse all this stuff, and then my stuff will always be visible. Hey. Where'd it go? It's at the bottom of the button script. Oh, I didn't actually realize it was a script that was driving this. Okay. Apparently it is. All right, so here we go. I want to take my canvas. I want my canvas to be inactivated. Now, I see a couple different ways of doing this. The one I'm comfortable with myself is to just do set active, game object set active. You'll notice also you can go to canvas and there is bool enabled there. You ought to be able to make stuff happen by messing with that, but I've had less luck with that. It seems to be a little finicky, so I'm just going to do what I know works. So set active, after all, we just need one good way of doing things. If there's more than one, that's a bonus, but at least if we have one. Now here's the thing. Set active actually takes an argument, which is true or false. There's stuff under the hood here, right? As nice as this is, you just kind of have to learn. Okay, that checkbox is what's actually governing whether it's false or true. Okay? And I think what's going to happen is it's going to turn it false unless the box is checked. Let's verify. We're in. Button's active. We click it. It became inactive. It works. All right? Okay, so we're off and running. Okay, now what do we want to have happen next? Well, probably the very first thing you want to face your user with is another screen of text to say, hey, welcome, do this or that or the other thing. It's not the only way to go, for sure. Please use your own common sense. It may very well be better than mine. Also, you guys are out touching products every day that may have tutorials in them. Trends change over time, so I mean, you want to do things the way people think is cool and good currently, so your users are happy with you. So if you think it's better to jump right into the game, great, you should do that. Okay, but I'm going to put up another wall of text for them. I'm going to use another canvas. This is just the way. So the way I like to organize it is I don't personally like to have a million canvases floating around. But if you want to do that, you can certainly do that. Every single time you pop something up, it could be another canvas that's activated or disactivated. I think that would work just fine. I'm going to just have two along the lines of the app I gave you before. The splash will be one, and then I'm going to have a kind of a general information canvas, and then at the end of the day, something's going to have to proliferate, right? If you've got a long tutorial, you've got to do a lot of back and forth with the user. Now do this, now do that. Okay, good job. You didn't do it right. Whatever. There's going to be a lot of those displays. I make those panels, and my humble excuse for that is just that, well, I like all those panels kind of can get hidden under the one canvas there, so it doesn't look like my game just basically consists of canvases. That's a pretty weak argument, but you can certainly organize things away to your liking. Yeah.
One or two questions. One, how did you make it a splash canvas? And two, what's a splash canvas?
So in games, they call the first thing you see when you double click on the thing, and that just something to let you know that the game's starting up while things are still loading in the background. It's called a splash screen. Okay. So that's why I'm calling it that. It's not exactly the. Yeah, it's not an exact analog of what happens in a game, but it's a name. That's why. Did I get both sides of your question? I don't know if I did. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to put in another canvas, which is going to be my info canvas. Let me do that. UI canvas. Okay. Let's call this one the info canvas. All right. Inside my info canvas, I'm going to put my first panel. Okay, now a panel is, for all practical purposes, it's just a region inside the canvas, and you can use it like a canvas itself, and that is indeed how I use it. Go down here to UI, put a panel in there. Okay, and in particular, you can populate it with text and buttons and images and all the normal goodies. Okay, so here's my panel. Let's put some text in there. Okay. First, welcome. First instructions to user, go here. Okay. I'm going to want it to actually be legible and stuff. Now, here's the other thing I don't like about this. Whether you decide on a lot of canvases or you decide on a lot of panels, you're going to constantly be having to turn them on or off, or you end up with a complete jumble, right? You won't know what's on your canvas and what was on the one you just messed with. So the way I deal with that, because I don't know a better way, I'd love to learn one if you figure one out, is just to go disactivate stuff, right? So now I've only got the info canvas active, so now I can see stuff like, for example, oh, gee, all my text isn't appearing, and it's also not really positioned well on the screen, and so I have some work to do. Okay, so we can go in here. Let's see. Actually resize the thing. Let me do that. Oh, scales it up with the font. I didn't know it would do that. Okay. I actually want to be able to scale the box so you can see all of the instructions. Please let me do that. Why is it not letting me do that? That is weird. Normally it lets me do that, as far as I know. Panels here. Is the panel rescale? Even the panel is not. So now I can move it. How come I can't rescale it? I've done this recently and it was fine. It must have fat fingered something over here.
You're trying to make the text box bigger?
Yeah, so you can actually
hit
see.
Hit the fourth thing from the left on the top toolbar on the left, like that rectangle thing.
This thing up here?
Yeah.
This guy?
The one over to the left.
This guy?
Yeah.
Rec tool.
And then you can drag it.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah. Maybe that's up by default, and when I changed it, I didn't know to change it back. All right, fine. Okay, so we can do this. We can change the justification. You can change the font size manually in addition to scaling things, right? Got to make it all work together. Okay, you want to move things. You can go in here and drag it around. Okay, and then I'm going to want some kind of an acknowledgement button underneath it. This is the way I do things. Again, is an acknowledgement button strictly necessary? No. I mean, maybe you want the instructions to flow down the screen so the user doesn't have to worry about actually remembering what you said when you go through the tutorial. That would be fine, maybe preferable. Okay? But I'm going to build it the same way I built the example, just so you can see how that stuff gets built. Okay. So panel, all right, great. We're going to add another thing in, UI button. Okay, there we go. Pull it down. Give it some different text at appropriate size. Reddit. All right. Scale it up. Well, I guess the problem is the button's too small, right? Let's scale the button up. Yeah, you know what? I really don't like doing that. I think I want to use that rec tool thing the whole way. All right. My text is off center. Okay, now the text is the child of the button, right? So once you get things centered the way you want it, just move the button rather than the text. Okay, that's not very pretty, but it'll work. Okay, now the next thing is, this is the point at which I would like to, when I click this, a bunch of things have to happen, right? This is normally where, in the example I gave you before, I want to drop in and actually have the user in my environment. So we have no environment right at the moment, so let's just quickly create it. Let me go. I'm going to need my motion model in. So let me grab it. Put a plane down for us to walk on. Right. Game object, 3D object, put a plane down in there. Let's get into 3D mode. Let's take a look at my actual plane. Scale it up so we know that's way too small to actually walk on. This is going to be barely big enough to walk on. And I'll put my motion model down in there. Characters, first person, prefab. Boom. Okay. All right. Good. All right. So let's start by just having, when you click I read it, let's just make the invoke canvas go away and see how things work. It's going to have some problems, no doubt, when you start out. But let's at least do that much. Let's go in. This. Take our info canvas, okay, and basically turn it off when it's clicked. I think that's the right thing to do. Is that active? I think false. That should do it. All right, so let's just see how we go. Now there's going to be a bunch of problems here. I'm going to have 2 cameras. I've got a bunch of things to solve, but yeah, and see now the motion model's fighting with me. I don't get a cursor because the motion model's active. All right, so let's start it with the motion model inactive. Get back out. Go in here, turn it off. Let's try again. Okay, I read it, and I don't see the new text. Splash canvas is not set on, so that's because we didn't set it to go on, right? So this is what you end up doing. So this is the preferred mode, so you've got to go, you're gonna always be hunting for your objects, like the button that is supposed to control that thing. You've got to find it on its appropriate panel, click on it, manipulate its list of actions. That's the way they expect you to do things, I think. Okay, so let's do it. It's not all that bad, even though it's not my preferred way. So let's go and grab that original button. Am I out of the game? I am. In Splash Canvas, this button right down here. Okay, let's add something else in to turn the info canvas on. So info canvas comes in here. Need to game object, set active, but with the button clicked, so it actually turns it on. And then, and this is one of the things I like least. Again, you're always like turning these things on and off, and before you run your game, you've got to make sure that it's in the right setup, that the splash screen is on, the other things are off, however whatever your code assumes. I don't know how other people work this. It's a little unwieldy. You could very easily put a script in with just to find all the canvases and turn them all off or something like that at the beginning to just kind of make it a little more uniform. I don't know what people do, what best practices people have come up with. But I assume it's something maybe a little smarter than what I'm doing here. But my info canvas now needs to go off, my splash canvas needs to go on, and now I can start my thing up. Okay, let's see if it works. Boom, and boom. Okay, good. And at this point now, this is where I would like to, if I'm following the thing I gave you before, I would like to see that I'm in the game, the motion model should come on, so let's make that happen. Okay, all right, so that is this button now that would be controlling that. Okay, so when it turns the info canvas off, it should also turn the motion model on. Okay, so we can grab our motion model, stick it in here, same deal, game object. Kind of like this, it's not all the same. Now the next thing it's going to complain about is, oh no, you've got 2 cameras in your scene. Okay, yeah, okay, we know. When we turn that on, we probably should turn the other camera off. So let's do that. More the merrier, right? Okay, grab the main camera, put it in here, game object, set active, unclicked. All right, so then it should switch cameras and we should be good. Okay, let's see. Go. Start, I read it, and I'm moving. All right, everything's working. All right, so the next thing would be, what would the next thing be? So I've given the user some instructions. Okay, I'm not going to completely build the thing that I gave you before, because hopefully you digested enough of that is necessary. But whatever's going to happen, whatever I tell the user to do, we're now in the control of the sim, and let's at least go as far as figuring out how now from a script or whatever's driving our sim, we can go back into information providing mode, right? Pop up another canvas. So another panel, actually, in this case. Okay, so what I'm going to want to do is have another panel here in the info canvas. Okay, so UI panel. Okay, this is my second panel. So you probably should name these, give them some sensible names. I'll just go with panel 1 and 2, but rather than going with the ugly default. Okay, so here's panel 2. Panel 2 can have some text of its own. And this is where I'll leave it, but just to show. Done. Okay. Now to actually see it, I've got to go and turn that off, turn the info canvas on, Turn the other panel off. Turn this, make sure this panel is on. Okay, good. There we go. You're done. Yeah, the font leaves something to be desired. Let's maybe play with that a little bit. Okay, and let's go into 2D mode. Grab the text widget. Make it bigger. All right. So that should be good. Okay, I'm not going to bother with turning off the motion model or anything else. So we'll just make this work. Okay. Now to start up, this guy should be off. The info canvas should be off. The splash canvas should be on. Okay. All right. Now you're going to have some code for sure in your simulation. I don't have any yet, so let me go and just put a script container in here and just make a free floating script. This is the way I do it. If you have a script that's attached to some object in your scene, great. That's also possible, whatever makes sense for you. Here's my script container. Let's go add a script in. New script, good. Let's call it, GUI Manager is not a bad name, actually. I'll take it. Okay. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to, what am I going to do? I'll just detect the W key like we did before, and then that'll be it. That'll be the end of the game. I'll trigger the end panel. I think that's enough of a demo. You should hopefully get the point from that. Okay, let's go. Okay. All right, so this will be in the update. I'll be looking for, I have an if, input, get key, key code, W. That'll do. All right, if that happens, what do I need to do? Okay, what I'm going to want to do is, I probably want to...
Is that a capital W or does it matter?
Yeah, that's just the key code for the W key.
Okay.
Yeah, it isn't the capital W. If you hit like Shift W, it's like the Shift key plus the W key, right? Good. So what I want to do is activate. Well, I can do both things. I can disactivate. So again, just doing things the Unity way. Let me put in my motion model here. Game object motion model that I'm going to disactivate. Let me put in my panel here that I'm going to activate. Let me see. I'm going to need the. Actually, it's the info canvas that I'm going to want to activate. So public, I'll call it a canvas, info canvas. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do to the motion model, I'm going to do a set active, false. To the info canvas, which I will hopefully have set up so the right information is there to go. I'm going to do that with the buttons because I'm going to try to use the normal Unity buttonology to the max. Okay, so hopefully that's good to go, and I can just tell it to become visible, and I'm good. Maybe. True. Okay. Why is it? Oh. Interesting. I think a canvas is still a game object. Let me say that it's a game object. We'll see. See if that works. Slightly suspicious. All right. Now after that compiles, I should get my slots here so I can drag stuff over there. So I'll put my motion model over here, and I'll put my info canvas over here. Any complaints yet? No. Okay. Let's see. All right. So what I'm going to need to do is, with my, when panel 1 sets the info canvas off, it should also set panel 1 off and panel 2 on, so it's good to go. The next time we go and we're ready for the new information, it has the new information good to go. Okay? So yet more stuff needs to happen here. Okay, so I'm going to go to my own panel and turn it off. On my own panel, that's this one. Shoot. Okay. Wow. All right.
This is
Right
really
here?
the best way to do
I don't think so, but I think this is using the mechanism they provide. So
it. Sorry, but
yeah, I'm not super happy with it.
this system's very easy to use, right? Like, I feel Unity's very easy to use or good like that. I just don't. I can't. I don't mean it as an attacking user for.
Yeah, no. I prefer to do as much as I can in normal code, personally. Yeah. Okay, so set active, off. Okay, that's good. Panel 2 should be set on, so it's ready to go. Okay, so I need yet one more. Same kind of pattern. Panel 2. I mean, some people definitely prefer just want to avoid code at all costs. Okay, so if that's your preference, here's an option. Okay, good. So I think that should be good to go. We'll see. Okay, if it doesn't work, we'll know we did something wrong. Okay, so it started. We click start. All right, so what happened? Right away, we're in a bad state here. So the info canvas is on, because I didn't leave panel 1 in the on state. Okay. You gotta, before you start the game up, every time when you're messing with this, you gotta, if your thing depends on it being in a certain state, you gotta make sure it's in that state. So I was assuming it was on, and I left it off. Okay, my bad. Okay, let's try again.
Use
Startup script.
yeah, in your script container, like a start script.
Just like turn everything off. I think that might be reasonable and do it from code. That's what I would prefer, personally. Okay, so we got it. Welcome, first instruction to users, go here. Got it. I'm in. Now be careful. I don't want to hit W. I just want to move around some other way just to verify everything's good. It is. Now I'll hit W. Okay, and okay. See, I forgot to turn the camera on. All right, so almost. Ever so close. Let's go to, let's go back to our script. And we're going to need a slot for the camera. I'll start by calling it a camera, if they let me call it a camera. And if they don't, I'll call it a game object again to get around it. Oops. True. Turn it on. We want to make sure it's the main camera. Boop. Uh-oh. Yeah, it doesn't like it. All right, good. It's a game object. Sorry, it's a game object. I meant game object. All right. Just lets me always use the same call. I mean, otherwise you'd have to go in and grab the enabled property. And I was having some weird bugs relating to that recently in the past. I'm sure it's all my fault. I'm sure you can totally make it work, but I'm just doing it the way it's easy for me at the moment. Okay, so I go to main camera, drag it in there. All right, let's try again. Boom, boom, boom. Start. I read it. I'm moving. I hit W. I'm done. Motion model's locked up. Everything's good. All right. Okay. So I'm done. I'll go think about what I want to give you for the lab. We'll talk about that first thing.
Sir, if we have time today,
We do have
or
time.
on whatever the next time that we meet.
Yeah.
Could we go over potentially walking onto like a trigger to?
Yeah.
And how Script Manager would manage that. And then the other thing is, I guess as we're planning the game itself, the transferring between scenes, how do you do that? Or if that's recommended.
What do you mean transferring between?
As I trying to war game out how to do this thing, I think transferring between scenes as I enter into a room or something like that, where I could then trigger other different game objects to do whatever might be easier for me to implement.
Well, so you can't. So I don't think you can expect a seamless transition.
Okay.
So with load scene, it's not built for that. So Unity can do streaming assets, which are kind of like that, where but that's way sophisticated. So the idea with the streaming asset is, I've got 2 rooms. They're both very big. They have a million complicated objects. I cannot afford to have both rooms in my computer at one time. So kind of the way is, as you kind of get close to the other room, it like starts taking out the stuff that's behind you and starts putting in the stuff that's ahead of you. So it just kind of, and when it works well, it's beautiful magic, and it just all looks completely seamless. But making that happen is, a whole nother level of complexity. Okay.
And I think,
but if you had like a thing, like you could have a guy, you can go to the door, you could have him click on the door, and you could say, okay, now, loading new room comes up, and now it load, and now you're on the other side of the door, and you start the second scene. That would be kind of the model you'd be using. Okay, is that?
well, okay, yeah, the other way I was thinking of doing it is you cross something when you cross the threshold of the room, it's a sensor that then triggers.
You could, like a load scene automatically happening. So it could be a trigger that then triggers a load scene.
Well, I was even going to have just inactive nav mesh agents inside the room, and then they would be set to active once you cross the threshold. If I can't do the multiple scenes.
So you could, so let's look a little bit at triggering. We could just mess around with that. I haven't done that for a while. I'd actually like to do that. So, okay, a bit of an aside, but a relevant one. So that's certainly an option for what you could do even for the lab, even if you don't need it for your final project. Okay, so let's put in a new scene here, so I don't have to mess with this. Come on, where are my scenes?
The earliest what I thought was going to be difficult was maintaining score across multiple scenes.
Well, there are some issues with that. So with regards to that, yeah, you can Google that and see there is a Unity facility, I forget what it's called, where people normally use, because normally the state you carry across scenes is not a ton compared to the size of a scene. There is a facility for doing that.
Okay.
You can always back out. Yeah, so the issue, so those of you who aren't in the position or haven't thought about it yet, the issue you'll have when you try to do that is when you load a new scene, it's kind of like kicking Unity off for the first time. Like all your information goes poof, and the score, you don't want to go poof. You already earned some points. You should still get credit for those, right? So you can always do tricks like just put in like a static class. Okay, you could add a static a class here. So like, what's the best way to show that? Yeah, all right. Let's we do have time for at least one of these, and I can talk about the other one tomorrow. So yeah, let's deal with the trigger now, and static class I can show you tomorrow. It's a static class. So it's very much like in Java. Okay, it would be an object that's not. There's always only one of those objects around, and you could use that to via method calls to store your score. And that would not get recreated when the scene load happens. That's certainly one possibility. There are also ways to tag objects that they should not get recreated when the scene loads. That is very tricky to make work properly. So I'll warn you, but that's yet another possibility. All right, so good. Scenes. Sample scene. Let's make another one. Great. All right, so all I'm going to try to do is just put a trigger in there. You've all touched triggers before because you had to going through the tutorial stuff, but maybe I certainly wouldn't blame you if it's not fresh in your minds. And it's not fresh in mine either. That's why I'm happy to do this. Maybe I will make it fresh. So let's save my other scene. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to need what? I'm going to need a plane to walk on. I'm going to need my motion model in because I'm going to be the trigger. Probably for a lot of you, that's exactly what you'd want. Okay, let's get out of 2D mode. There we are. I'm going to put my motion model in. Sit in the middle. All right. Let's make sure it works. Make sure I don't fall to my death. I don't know why sound isn't working. And it's not working. Maybe because I left the main camera in. That's one symptom sometimes. When you have two cameras.
You have to delete the main camera again.
Oh my god. Yeah, I got to delete it again. Thanks. It's just taking long enough. I'm getting out of sync with what's happening in my application here. All right, delete, try again. All right, that was it. Okay, not sure if you noticed it's very gray instead of the white that it normally is. Are we not in a normal place with regard to the light? Oh, we're really not. Let's reset. And let's take the motion model and also reset it. Still running. I'm falling to my death as the plane got moved up from underneath me. All right, let's go like that. I got to set the plane again as well. All right, so they both should be roughly at the origin. Let's see if that's good, or if I start underneath the plane. No, it's good. No, it still looks gray. Interesting. Okay, when I reset it, I lost my size though, so I got to scale it up again. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to want is an object there just to use as a trigger. Now, your triggers don't have to be visible objects at all. In fact, it's probably better if they aren't, but I'm going to just leave mine visible. Take a cube, put it in there. All right, let's reset the cube too. It's also at the origin. Let's go down to it. Okay, so I need it to be bigger. Let's make it a 5 meter by 5 meter cube. 5. All right. Let's go up. Man, the light is just in a weird spot. Come on, light, get out of here. Get up in the air where you belong. All right, let's just bring this up. Okay. All right, now we've got a collider on it. Okay, now it may just be as easy as saying is trigger. Let's see if that's the case. Okay, it might be. But there should be a way. To have trigger volumes that you can just walk into. I can't remember how you set that up. Does anyone remember? Okay, so this is going to be one we're going to actually walk into. It's not going to let us actually walk into the volume. You know, there is a way to just have volumes that are set that you can actually see in the editor, but they're nothing real. And when you just walk in, that's what you actually want, to have a volume on the other side of the door that you walk into. So I'll have to leave that. Let's see if we can at least make the trigger thing work. First you say it's a trigger, okay? And then we can put a script on here, I think, and there's a special callback for triggers. I think that's the way you do it, as I recall. Okay, trigger handler. Okay, we don't get all the way there. We'll pick it up tomorrow. Let's see. There it is. Let's edit this. Okay, Unity. Trigger callback. Collider on trigger enter. Okay. All right. So I'm going to have to actually get the collider though. On trigger enter is called when the collider enters the trigger. Okay. Let's try. That's what we need. We want that in our code. Okay, let's put that in a comment so I know what I'm supposed to be doing here. Okay, so we need on trigger enter. Okay, void, let's just make it log to the, let's do a debug log just to see if it happens, we know we're good. Okay, collider other, okay, private, void, all right, I think that's all good. Debug, log, collision happened. Okay, I wonder if this is already enough. I mean, I'm actually sitting as a parallel component to the thing that's actually has actually the collider. I think that might already be because of Unity magic. I think they might have already wired it together enough that might be enough. Let's see. Only one way for me to know. Let me get up the. Let's go. Look around. There it is. Collision happened. Oh, and it lets me walk through it. Ah, yeah, okay, so you see, when I'm saying it is trigger, It's making it so that I can walk through it, okay? I think if you turn on trigger off, it won't let you walk through it anymore. Now the next thing would be that you could go and, let's do this. Let's, just real quick. I have 3 minutes. Let's just put a little marker over it. Okay, a little, yeah. Okay, another cube, whatever, fine, whatever. Just so we kind of know where it is. Just floating up in the air over the trigger volume. And now we can go to this thing, right, and we can turn off its rendering. We can turn off the mesh renderer, right? And I think there's even a way to make it so it's...
change the layers visible in as well?
Maybe, yeah, because you might want to see it in the editor and then not see it when the thing runs. Is that what you're thinking?
Kind of. Like I found something that talked about mini maps, and that's how they put the circles on people.
Oh.
They make those...
They're there, but they're just not visible in a
but not
particular
visible
layer?
to everything else.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, there's probably a lot of ways to do it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay. All right, but at least let's see if this works. Okay, let's start it up. Okay, so now hopefully we see. So the little indicator is there. The trigger volume is not visible. Let's bring up our thing so we can see if it actually happens. And let's just run over there and see if we can trigger the volume without actually seeing it. There we go.
Wow.
Okay. So that could be how you do that. That would be on the other side of your door. When that message happens, you maybe put another splash up and then do your load scene. Okay. All right. Now the other thing. What's the other thing I owe you? I already went out of my head. Dan, you asked about something else.
Scene transition.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not going to do scene transition. It's going to take. I'll just use the trigger, and then I'll have something that was set inactive and turned.
No, there was something else.
It was scene transitions. How do you load what program or how do you transition from? How do you get one scene to load the next scene?
All right. Well, if you guys can't be bothered to know what you asked me, I can't. Yeah. I mean, we already talked about that.
Yes, sir.
I said everything I can say about that. All right. Whatever. Okay. So there's triggering. Certainly something you can use for the lab next week. Certainly something you can use for your scene.
The score across scenes, but I'm not going to.
Scroll across scenes. Yes. Static object. Okay. Let's do that.
Got rid of changing scenes. So.
Okay. So what you can do is, if you just go in, so you're not going to get a lot of help from Unity. Unity, that's not a normal thing that Unity encourages you to do, make static objects. So don't expect Unity to give you support. So I'm just going to kind of go in here, and I'm going to just duplicate one of these objects on my trigger handler, let's say. Let's copy. Let's paste it in again. Okay. Let's say sample static for the object type. Okay, now it's there. It's in our scene. Okay, we don't want it to be a mono behavior or any of that stuff. What we want is that we want it to be static. Okay, so it'll be a public's good. Public static class. Okay, not a mono behavior. Get rid of that. Okay. Now it's not going to get any callbacks as a static object. This is the downside. It's not a game object now. It's not a game object. It's not going to get any of that good stuff. If you want it to know that an update happens, you have to have a game object, and in its update, it needs to poke the static object and say, "Hey, an update happened. Thought you might want to know about this." Something like that. Okay. Now you can't have normal methods on a static object either. I mean, they've got to be static methods. Right? You can't have normal data on a static object. It's got to be static data, but you could have a static int score, for example, right? And then I could have a static void increment score int delta that adds some delta to my score, right? Score plus equals. Okay, trigger handler we've used. Let's call this score. Okay, I think that should be okay. Let's just see if it compiles. We're probably good. I didn't like something, but I don't think it didn't have anything to do with our static object. I think our static object is good. Okay, so here's our sample stat. All right, so that's the idea. So you could have a getter on there to report the score back out. You would have some increments. We increment, and this will not die in between scenes. No magic. No. Yeah. Again, there's a way to say objects should survive scene transitions, but sometimes you end up like with duplicates of those objects and stuff. There's some wackiness that happens with that.
Can we go into one of the other scripts and kind of show how we point to it real quick?
It is dead easy. Okay, so you can do this. So let's put a getter on here. Int get score. Return score. Okay, so now I can report that back out. It actually isn't public. It probably shouldn't be either. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go into our trigger handler and let's increment the score when we do this. So this is how you do it. Score. What is it? It should already be there. Why is it not? Sample static. Oh, maybe because I called it sample static. Maybe I need to rename it score. Probably need to rename the file score. File. Save it as. Okay, and then let's kick sample static out of the project. It's already gone over here. Let's make sure it's out of here, out of Unity as well. Okay, what's going on? Yeah, see, now it's getting. See, sample static needs to die. Delete. Okay, it gets deleted out of the project. We recompile. Score does not contain a definition for debug. Okay, so why doesn't it?
You need to change it public.
What is that?
You need to make it public. For the score, the methods need to be public static.
Oh, the public, yeah, for sure. Oh wait, where is it?
Public static.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. This one also needs to be public, right? Okay, so that's all good. What else was it complaining about? Score does not contain definition.
Just because
Finish the code
finish the line.
Oh, there we go. Score, what was it? Add? Get increment score. All right, get 10 points. Okay, and then we can also say collision happened, debug. Score is now. All right, let's see. So sorry, we went a little over, but it's so fun. Okay, wait. Okay, looks like we're good. Let's try it. We might get triggered. No, it just triggers once. Score is now 10. Let's back out. Let's go in again. Score is now 20. Yes. All right. Good. You're welcome. Okay. So I'll see you guys first thing tomorrow.